Hi, folks. My name is Jay. Let me introduce myself. I'm the author of a book called Public Schools, Public Menace. As you can probably guess from the title of the book, um, the book is my advice to parents on the many ways that public schools can hurt their children and/or, in effect, be a menace to their children's self-esteem, their life, and their future. I got into writing this book because I was reading an article a couple of years ago about how they currently teach children to read in public schools. And the article said that the way they read is called whole language or balanced literacy. And as I read the article, I got horrified when it was describing this procedure, because I knew from what the article said that this teaching reading method must be a complete disaster. And I started to become so interested in the subject. I started reading many more articles and many books about public schools, and I ended up, after 2 years of research, writing my book, Public Schools, Public Menace. One of the most dangerous and damaging things that public schools do to children is this reading instruction method that so many public schools use. And let me explain. I'll give you a little background behind this teaching method. When I went to school a long time ago, they taught kids to read with phonics. That was the norm. And in phonics, as most of you probably know, what they do is take each letter of the alphabet and assign a sound to it. Like A is A, or A, or B is B, C is K, D is D. And because there's only 26 letters in the alphabet, what the child has to memorize is actually the sounds connected to each of these letters. And when the child reads, the mechanics of reading is that when he's starting off just learning how to read, is he first learns the letters of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, and then he learns the sounds associated with the letters. What he then does, as an example, if he looks at the word dog, is he looks at the word and sounds out each of the letters in sequence. For example, dog would be D, the O would be A, and the G would be G. And so the child, with the help of the parent or the teacher, would read the word in sequence, such as D, A, G, D, A, G, and then faster, D, Da, A, G, dog. And he would use this technique of phonics for any word that he was not familiar with. He would look at the letters of the alphabet, know the sounds associated with that letter, and then sound out each letter in his mind, and then eventually be able to read the word. Now, as the child became more proficient in reading, especially with phonics, his mind automatically would be saying the sounds of each letter in a word in his mind, and he'd be able to, quote, read the word much more quickly, even though he was almost like subconsciously reading or pronouncing the sounds of each letter in the word as he's going along. And after he becomes really proficient, he doesn't even do that anymore, because it becomes totally automatic. Like when you drive a car, you drive without even thinking what you're doing. The way you're steering the wheel and putting your foot on the brake, it becomes automatic. But in the beginning, when you're driving a car, you had to learn each of these individual things. That's the way phonics is taught, and it's perfectly suited to a alphabetic language. Now, the teaching method in public schools is completely opposite. This whole language teaching method is where the teacher does not tell the child to look at each letter and sound out the sound of each letter and then put the sounds together. What he tells the child to do is to look at the word as if the word itself was also a picture, as if it's an Egyptian hieroglyphic or a Chinese picture word. So what the child would do in the first grade, or even kindergarten, is that the teacher would give them his baby reading books, and in those books there would be, maybe 100 words, and each word would have a picture associated with it. For the word dog, there would be a picture of a dog. For the word of cat, there'd be a picture of a cat, and so forth. And what this teaching method, so-called method, is that they tell the child, okay, look at the picture of the dog, look at the picture of the word, the D-O-G letters, and memorize the picture of the word, the actual, as if the word D-O-G is a picture on the bottom of the picture of the actual object. Now, why is this so dangerous? Because the child is not actually reading the word. He is just memorizing another picture below the picture of the object. Why is that so dangerous? Because a child, and even adults, are really able to memorize certain objects, maybe 100 to 200 maximum, in their memory. So what happens with the child is that they may be memorizing in the first grade, let's say 100 to 200 words, dog, cat, man, woman, child, whatever, from their baby picture books. And this is what the teachers consider them to be reading. And then the child goes home with this little baby reading book, shows it to his parents, opens the pages, and starts saying, look, Daddy, look, Mommy, this word says dog, this word says cat. And the parents don't realize the child is not reading. He's just memorized the picture of the word because he's associated with that particular picture of the object. Now, the problem starts coming when the child gets into the second grade or starts getting words in the English language that are 2-syllable, 3-syllable. And what happens is, if the child has never seen that word before, he cannot deconstruct the word by sounding out the letters of, making the sounds of each letter and putting the sounds together to read the word. That's what reading is. Instead, if he's never seen that word before, he can't read it because the whole language reading method was based on him memorizing a word associated with an object. So any word he's never seen before, he will not know how to read. Therefore, if he starts reading any more complex material, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, he starts reading multi-syllable words, your child will be totally lost on how to read. Now, what does that mean? In effect, his ability to read is being systematically destroyed by this so-called teaching instruction method. Now, what is the consequence of that? Well, a child's whole reading career depends on this primary skill of knowing how to read. Everything the child is going to learn to read, no matter what subject he's studying, whether it's English, social studies, civics, chemistry, math, history, they all involve reading books and reading material. If the child cannot read, if he's frustrated in reading because he's now looking at words he's never memorized before in his baby books, he cannot read any of this material. He's going to get frustrated. That means he's going to turn off reading. He's going to hate reading. He's going to hate learning. He's going to hate school. What does that mean for your child? That is a surefire destruction for his self-esteem as a student and as a person. He's going to hate himself because he can't read and the teachers are expecting him to read. He's going to feel stupid. He's going to fall back on his studies. He's not going to be able to advance into second, third, fourth grade, and if he does, it's only because the public schools let him advance in spite of the fact that he still can't read properly. And you have cases, many cases, where children go through high school, and by the end of high school, they're barely able to read a bus schedule. And when they try to get into college, if they get into college, most colleges today, because of the horrible state of literacy of kids coming out of high school, have remedial reading classes in college that the kids have to take before they can go on to higher college level material. And this is also one of the causes for kids dropping out of college because, again, the reading skills are terrible. Now, what does this mean for your child's life? If your child can't read, if his self-esteem is destroyed, that means he has a loss of ambition to do anything or be anything in his life because he thinks he can't do anything. And that's true. any decent job or career that he's going to get is going to require him to read materials relating to his job. The same thing with math. If he's taught with the same kind of methods in public schools in math, he's going to be turned off to any career relating to math. But to go back to English, any career, any job is going to require him basic literacy. And if his reading ability is horrible, his self-esteem is going to be so bad that he might be settling for the rest of his life for part-time jobs or low-level jobs that is going to ruin his life, ruin his career, be terrible for him. And this is all caused by this horrible, stupid, impossibly stupid reading teaching method in so many public schools today. Now, what I talk a lot about this in my book, but this problem with the reading instruction method in public schools is just a tip of the iceberg of the many ways that public schools endanger and can wreck your child's life. And I go into a great deal about all of these different ways that public schools can wreck your child's life. And however, don't despair, because in my book also I talk about many now low-cost alternatives to public schools that parents can take advantage of right now instead of settling for the horrible reading education that your kid gets in public school. And in the meantime, if you will, I would give you a piece of advice. If your child has not gone to public school yet, if they're 3, 4, 5 years old, make sure you teach them to read at home with phonics software that you buy in a bookstore or that you get online. Teach them to read with phonics, with the phonics software, so that by the time they go into public school, they are proficient readers. This way that you will minimize the damage that the public schools could do to your child if your child did not go into school knowing how to read already. If your child did not get phonics reading instruction, if they're already in public school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and they're already failing and having frustration and hating school, well, again, I hope you take my advice to immediately do not ever depend on public schools to improve the situation. You're complaining to the public school, to the administrator, to the principal, is going to be like knocking your head against a brick wall. They will tell you, sorry, that's curriculum, too bad. So I would advise you, if you would take my advice, to start teaching your children phonics, again, at home while they're going to public school, so that you can minimize the damage and get your children up to par as a reader. And this is going to be the first video in a long line of videos about public schools, the dangers of public schools to your children, and all the many really great alternatives for you to choose from right now besides homeschooling, such as internet private schools and many other options. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like the video, please subscribe and click that thumb up, and I hope to see you in future videos. Thank you very much.